For me, running was the perfect pandemic exercise. I could do it alone, I could do it in the open air, and I could run away from people if I even needed to. But if you run alone long enough, you also realize the sport's about community and sometimes competition. So it's noticeable that even as America starts to come back from a spring and summer full of social distancing, road racing continues to lag behind.
For a while, it's like we knew zero, and you're like, okay, well, am I spreading? Am I out there contributing to spreading this? Am I being a jerk for going out and running outside? It was that one thing that always took stress away from me, and then it was the one thing that got taken away from me in the beginning of the pandemic.
Melly Todd is from LA. She first laced up 6 years ago after a breakup, and then it was off to the races. But things are a little different now.
For a couple of years, it was all about, for me, just like times and breaking my own barriers and breaking PRs. And I forgot about why I was brought to running in the first place. And it was to just become this better version of myself.
Her motivation and her miles started to look different.
I think as we started to learn more information, I'm like, okay, I'll just avoid people. I'll go at off times, even if it's hotter.
But was that enough? Runners all over the country and the world had so many questions. A lot of them turned to a coach with one of the biggest running organizations in one of the biggest early hotspots.
The first questions were people like, is it safe to go outside? How legit is the 6 foot distance? Which mask is the best mask to wear, or should I wear a mask?
An innocent, simple thing of going out for a run can end up becoming a really stressful situation.
Mask guidance has evolved, but 6 foot distancing has remained the norm, even as group runs resume. But we're still learning.
I've always said the running community is amazing in that it endures, if you will, no pun intended, right? Always out there, all times of the year, all weathers, all conditions, through everything that happens in the world. Running has really been an amazing constant for people in their lives.
So if runners are still running and staying safe, what has changed? The racing. The running community suffered disappointment after disappointment as one race after another was canceled.
There are people that run for charities. There are people that, running to lose weight and for health reasons. And there are people that just run for social camaraderie. So when you take away, the one thing that everyone's striving for, regardless of ability, it has a huge impact.
That's Boulder, Colorado race director Lee Troop. His team hosts on average 13 events a year, but not a single one in 2020.
2 days before our first race for 2020, our St. Patrick's Day race, we got hit with the COVID pandemic and had to cancel our race. And it's just been scrambling and, a lot of frustration in trying to work out how we can get back.
Is back to normal even a consideration?
We can't have spectators, we can't have entertainment, we can't have, crowds lining the street, we can't high five, There's no beer garden after the race for everyone to talk about, the greatest war stories of the race.
Because it's more than just the race. It's a connection and camaraderie.
There's just like a energy that you can't even explain of just having people of all experience levels. You're all like out there chasing something and, whether that's joy or a PR or the longest run you've ever had or anything like that. So just having that like-minded energy is just like electric and so amazing.
But athletes are resilient.
With challenges, I often believe there are opportunities, right? So there are opportunities to be a part of a community that's running a virtual race. A lot of these races run from free to paid because you may get a medal or you may get a shirt. So you can even do it for free.
Virtual racing's not a new idea. In 2018, the New York Marathon accommodated its overwhelming demand by adding a virtual option. But the granddaddy of them all, the Boston Marathon, hadn't dipped its toe box into those waters yet. Making that call in 2020 was not easy for CEO Tom Grilk.
It is a very troubling thing to have to do, but in many ways far less troubling than many of the other wretched impacts of this disease. So in one way or another, the Boston Marathon gets into the fabric of people's lives around the world, and it is very troubling to take that away. We hope this Boston Marathon virtual experience will provide is an encompassing of all or as many elements of race weekend as we can.
So they created an app to bring the sounds of the legendary course to runners. At mile 12, you'll hear the Wellesley College Scream Tunnel. At mile 26, the announcer on Boylston Street.
It has started off as a Band-Aid, as a very, very short-term expedient. If we can't do what we've always done, what can we do? And so we will look for opportunity coming out of this crisis to use virtual contact with people as a way to have broader contact. And maybe for some people, less challenging contact.
But it's been challenging for local races too, like the Peak Too Early 2-miler in Lowell, Mass. You have to wonder why people pay money to run the same route they run every day for free.
It is a way to kind of challenge yourself, to have a goal, and at times like now where we're all struggling with a lot of things that are going on in the world, to have challenges, to have goals, to feel a part of a community that's running, even if it is virtually, I think there's something really fulfilling in that.
Those challenges are all over. Many even shipping you swag for competing. But there's nothing like the real thing. And some organizers are holding live events by really emphasizing the distance in their distance racing.
I would set up a handicap system so someone would take off and then 5 minutes later the next runner would take off. So, we obviously made sure social distancing was in, everyone was wearing their masks. But I did little creative things like giving them race numbers and setting up a little drink station so that they had that feeling that it was a race.
Racing and training, it's an accountability thing too.
It'll just be me and my friends in a group text, and we're like, did you get to run in? And my friend's like, I'm 4 miles in, and I'm like still in bed. I'm like, okay, I really need to get up.
We can go out and run now, and with all the digital platforms, be it Strava, who's our virtual race partner, or all of the other things that you have, you're able to talk about it, share your course, share your time, share your experience. And that really creates a connection with people, I think, that is really important, especially at a time like this.
And then there's live streaming. Teams in Colorado can compete against teams in Arizona. Maybe this is the future.
One of the things we've always had in this industry is creativity, thinking about new things. And as we're doing it with virtual racing, I think you're going to see even more of a kind of intersection between the digital aspects that we're doing with virtual and the in-person. More touchless things, more ways of scoring, and other aspects that I think will really bring, a new refreshed energy to the in-person races.
And new energy could bring new faces.
There seems to be a bit of a running boom, a renaissance, if you will, just because running is, at the core, such a simple sport. You don't need a lot of equipment, and it has a very, relatively speaking, low barrier of entry.
But the biggest questions may be about the biggest events. When will those return to live racing?
So until there's a vaccine, I think, a lot of people are going to be just erring on the side of caution and not going to worry about it.
So an important part of this work for us will be to define the relevant standards and how quickly they can be implemented. If they can't be implemented 100% right off the bat, what can be done in a less intrusive way? That is that takes the risk away from participants and spectators and volunteers.
Running is just going to continue to adapt and be innovative. My running has somewhat reflected our greater running community in the sense that we like to say around our quote unquote virtual office that running is not canceled.